Hello, my name is Mary Grand. Welcome to my observation presentation. In this presentation, I will be going over a few therapy sessions guided by Dr. John. In this first session, Dr. John is sitting down with Claire. He opened the session describing the limits of confidentiality. He explained that the sessions between himself and Claire are private unless Claire was at risk of abuse or suicide. Dr. John then clarified the importance of privacy with Claire, but because she was a minor, he would have to sit down with her parents if they were to ask about her status in therapy. Dr. John then asked Claire for 3 wishes. Claire freely expressed that she wishes she had more time to be better prepared for school, having a little sister to look up to her, and to spend more time with her parents. Throughout the session, Dr. John talked in a way that Claire would understand for her age. He also listened carefully to Claire's wishes and then repeated them back to her. I noticed that throughout the session, Claire responded with effort and openly shared with Dr. John. In the next session, Dr. John is sitting down with Claire, and he lightheartedly introduced the 3-step emotional change trick to Claire. He explained that step 1 is to honor the feeling, step 2 is to think a new or different thought or do something, step 3 is to spread the good mood. Claire explained that when she's in a bad mood, she likes to read, draw, and color to make herself feel better. Claire identified things she does to spread the good mood, like make her mom dinner and try to make someone happy. Dr. John added a 4th step, which is to teach someone else the 3 steps. Claire really seemed to like this step, and she expressed interest and interacted well in the 3-step trick, laughing at times with Dr. John. Dr. John then summarized each of Claire's wishes. In the 3rd session, Dr. John is sitting down with Claire, and he opened the session asking permission to play a game called What's Good About You. Dr. John would ask the same question, What's good about you, 10 times, but Claire would have to respond with different answers. Most of Claire's responses revolved around putting effort into pleasing others and doing the right thing. Claire mentioned that she likes to make cards for people to make herself and others feel good. Claire seems to self-critique so she can get better at things she's interested in. Dr. John wrote down word for word of Claire's responses and repeated them back to her. Dr. John expressed Claire's strengths at the end of the session, emphasizing how intelligent, creative, and hardworking she is. Claire agreed with the strengths that Dr. John presented to her. In this last session, Dr. John sat down with Claire and he summarized with Claire and offered feedback on Claire's 3 goals that she mentioned in the first session. Dr. John suggested that Claire internalize that she feel good enough to finish her schoolwork. Dr. John also suggested Claire look for someone younger that will look up to her since she doesn't have a little sister. He also suggested Claire experiment with her parents and ask to go do stuff together and just see what happens. Dr. John concluded with Claire and asked her if there was anything else. Claire seems to fit the 5th stage of Erikson's psychosocial development theory, called identity versus role confusion. This stage is critical in developing a sense of self and occurs between ages 12 and 18. Erikson was interested in how social interactions and relationships play a role in overcoming conflicts with each development stage. Identity formation is grounded in mastery, connectedness, or both. Identity taking on mastery, for example, would form their identity based on a specific skill, such as playing an instrument. Identity taking on connectedness will build their sense of self through origin roots, such as ethnicity or where they're from. Claire is the beginning stages of identity development. Claire's goals and wishes demonstrate her values and social needs, which can impact her sense of self. Claire is leaning towards a mastery identity. She sees value in herself when she works hard and excels in activities such as making cards. Claire's lack of relationship with her parents may contribute to her need to excel in activities and be an overachiever. Claire mentioned she wishes she had a little sister to look up to her and confirm Claire's abilities, such as praising her for her drawings. My theory is that Claire needs validation and approval. She isn't quite getting it from her parents, but she finds it self-affirming when she overachieves in school and tries hard to please others. In this therapy session, Dr. John is sitting down with TJ, and he starts the session by asking TJ what he thinks a benefit of successful therapy would look like to him. TJ explained that Dr. John would get to know him better. Dr. John asked questions about TJ's physical fights and then asked him about emotional injuries. TJ explained that fights with his family has impacted TJ emotionally. TJ doesn't like to show emotion because it's a sign of weakness. TJ wishes he had social skills such as tolerance so he can be supportive to other people. Projecting into the future, TJ saw himself as a motivational speaker, such as going to jails and mental health facilities. He would then tell a story and tell others of the ways that have helped him, which would make him feel strong and good about himself. Asking for help can feel like a weakness at first, but once good comes from it, it turns into a strength. TJ seeks to help in a supportive community to stay sober. Throughout the session, Dr. John asked questions that allowed TJ to explore meaning and purpose in his life. Carl Rogers' theory on unconditional positive regard is a humanistic theory that focuses on the inherent drive that all people have to reach full potential. Unconditional positive regard from the therapist allows the client to feel self-worthy and safe enough to learn new behaviors that will help them reach full potential. Dr. John asked questions that allowed TJ to reflect on the future, which allowed TJ to express his need to help others overcome hardship. Using unconditional positive regard, Dr. John created a safe and non-judgmental space for TJ to effectively reflect and express himself. This theory can help TJ overcome his anger and adopt new behavior. In this session, Dr. John is sitting down with Luis, and he starts the session by asking him what he likes and what he doesn't like about drinking. Luis explained that he likes to drink to be social, and he likes to drink when he gets home from work to wind down. He doesn't like the lack of self-control and the unhealthy feeling that drinking gives him. Luis wants to limit himself to at least 4 drinks out of 2 to 3 nights a week, but he finds himself binging once a week with 8 or 9 drinks. Dr. John asked him if he ever intentionally cut down. Luis mentioned that he went to AA voluntarily for 6 months, but felt alone and started again. When asked, Luis felt annoyed when someone else mentioned his drinking. Luis explained that he's in between drinking and staying sober, but he feels guilty for drinking. Dr. John ended the session by suggesting to Luis that he try drinking 3 drinks instead of 4. Cognitive dissonance theory occurs when conflicting beliefs cause anxiety. An individual will justify, avoid, or devalue true information to protect them from feeling discomfort. Luis experiences cognitive dissonance when he drinks. There's a part of him that doesn't want to do it because he feels unhealthy, but another part of him that justifies his drinking by limiting his beer intake, when in actuality he has no self-control and ends up binging once a week. Luis will rationalize by saying it's only a couple beers, he's on vacation, or he is winding down after work. Dr. John can help Luis become aware of the cognitive dissonance and adopt better behaviors that will lead to more self-control. In this session, Dr. John is sitting down with Meredith for her social anxiety. Dr. John started the session by creating a problem list and thoughts and behaviors related to the problem and ideas to change the thoughts. Meredith observes too much. She wants to participate but doesn't speak up. She feels that when she speaks up, her throat closes and her face gets red. Meredith gets extremely anxious in group settings. Her thoughts are focused on what she is going to say, and she ends up embarrassed because her reaction has nothing to do with the group topic. She feels nervous, very embarrassed before and after she speaks. Dr. John listened carefully to Meredith as she was speaking. Dr. John went over thoughts with her that are more helpful in speaking in front of groups. He suggested that being more prepared and saying nice things about herself, like she would a good friend. Metacognition theory focuses on awareness of one's own cognitive processes and strategically uses knowledge to learn, comprehend, and reflect on one's own thinking. Metacognition theory can help Meredith become more aware of her own thought processes and strategies to help her learn how to deal with social anxiety. Using metacognition theory, Dr. John assisted in helping her learn more helpful ways of thinking to practice for the next social encounter. In this session, Dr. John is sitting down with Carl, and he opens the session by asking Carl if he can ask him a few questions. It seems that Carl wants to be precise in all of his answers, and at times he rambles. Carl is confident in some areas like knowing math, reading beyond college level, and reading in different languages. Carl seems to believe in conspiracy ideas like the government only choosing specific people to be president. Throughout the questions, Dr. John responded neutrally when Carl made bold statements like this. Carl mentioned that he creates voices in his head to drown out certain thoughts, and sometimes he sees ghosts. Simple yes or no questions aren't answered right away. He talks about other topics instead of saying yes or no, but John redirects him back to the questions. Social cognitive theory emphasizes the role that social environment has on human motivation, learning, and self-regulation. Carl mentioned he grew up with several different father figures. These father figures may have played a significant part in Carl's social world that motivated him in adopting certain beliefs. This theory can help Carl by bringing more awareness to how the environment plays in learning. The counselor can integrate creation, which happens in Genesis 1:27, when sin entered the world, which happens in Genesis 3:6, redemption of sin, Ephesians 1:7, and restoration, Romans 12:2. This worldview will allow the client to see that we are born into a fallen nature, and through the blood of Christ, there is a new hope that one will be released from their sufferings and adopt new ways of thinking and behaving. This can give clients more meaning and purpose, knowing that they are created in the image of God. Throughout the sessions, Dr. John displayed several qualities such as active listening, patience, flexibility, non-judgmental boundaries, problem solving, and acceptance that allowed him to successfully build a trusted therapeutic alliance with clients. These are critical skills that will help me become a competent counselor in the future. Dr. John using active listening skills seems to be the most important because it allows the clients to comfortably express themselves. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and here are my references.